Anyone who capitulates in the crypto market at this point in time will massively regret it in a few months. In my opinion, and this is really not clickbait, we are currently in the most dangerous phase in the crypto market that we've seen in a long time. Right now, we can see that Bitcoin is doing exactly what it needs to do. Meanwhile, the short-term holders, the weak hands, are systematically being flushed out again. In today's video, we'll be looking at very specific on-chain data that you can't simply read from the charts. Most people right now are only seeing this correction that's currently happening with Bitcoin. But now, more than ever, it's important to look behind the scenes. What is really happening? Yes, because you can deduce quite a lot from this. Today, we'll be looking at extremely important charts, which I would say also shape my strategy for the coming weeks. So it's definitely worth sticking around until the end today. Otherwise, if you're new to the channel, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. But today, we're jumping straight into the video, and I've prepared a post for you right away. The higher the prices with negative sentiment, the more the spring is compressed, and it's extremely important to understand this. Right now, we have a fear and greed index of just 43, which I personally find absolutely insane. In my opinion, the market is currently completely overreacting, so it's really very surprising, especially when you consider and take a look at what's happening in the traditional market. We're on the verge of a new all-time high there, so everything looks very clean there. As we all know, the correlation between the crypto market and the traditional market is extremely high. And even there, we currently have a lot of weak hands. We'll also take a look at the on-chain data here in a moment, which we can definitely read from this. But this is really absolutely insane. If you think about it, yes, I've prepared a chart for you here. If you really think about it and keep in mind, Bitcoin is currently doing exactly what it needs to do, or rather, what it has always done. That is, every time before the next impulsive upward movement, we've always seen that Bitcoin first completely processes all the liquidity so that it can build on a healthy foundation. And we've seen this kind of thing with Bitcoin time, and again, we saw it during the summer slump of 2024. A long consolidation phase, nothing happened for ages. Then we got this complete liquidity spike here, and after that, the next upward movement took place. It was the same here with this tariff shock that we saw. Here too, the panic was extremely high. Yes, everyone was fearful again right before the next upward movement happened. It's exactly the same here, and now, right here at this point, it's the exact same game again. We see it over and over again. I even saw a post about this, or rather the whole thing on Twitter, where you can see it nicely summarized. It's always the same behavior with Bitcoin, and time and again, and that's the funny thing about it, the exact same investors get burned every time. Let's take a look, specifically here, short-term holder capitulation. I've prepared a post about this, and no matter which on-chain indicator I look at right now, it's clear to see the weak hands, meaning the short-term investors, and these are usually newcomers to the market, are being systematically shaken out here. I've also noted it again up here on the right. Tourists are selling at a loss. Historically, a sharp rebound often follows as soon as we jump back above one. We also saw this during the recent crash. We saw the same thing here as well. In this case, a few weeks ago, we had exactly the same behavior. Just like in the next chart, momentum is breaking. We're now entering negative momentum again, which we last saw here during this trade shock. So we can also see very clearly what's actually happening in the background here, who is doing the selling. At this point, it's not the big institutions currently dumping on us or anything like that. It's clearly the short-term investors, the tourists, who have only recently entered this market. And here as well, the next chart, the 7-day cost basis change of short-term holders is about to turn negative. A classic setup for a capitulation, similar to what we saw in this case here. So we can see very clearly what's happening in the background here. And based on this on-chain data and the current price behavior of Bitcoin, which is very typical and something we've seen repeatedly. Yes, so what we're seeing with Bitcoin right now is nothing new. It leaves me completely unfazed and, above all, extremely calm. So personally, I continue to stick to my plan, especially when I recognize setups like these. Here, on a monthly basis, everything has been structurally processed cleanly. We can also see this extremely well here in this on-chain graphic. The longs are being liquidated one after another. If you take a look at the entire chart, we've actually seen the highest value here since this summer. Here, 15%, 16%, 18%. So basically what we have is long liquidation dominance. So that's really extreme, I have to say. And to be completely honest with you, I also closed 1 or 2 long positions myself. So it really has to be said clearly at this point, because I would argue that hardly anyone expected such a sharp sell-off again. In my opinion, as I said, I'm sticking to my plan, or rather, I'm going to open new long positions here as well. In my view, right now is an extremely good time at 110,000 US dollars. After this liquidation cascade just took place, in my opinion, now is once again the perfect time to prepare for new setups. That's definitely my current approach. And as I said, no matter which chart I look at, we can see here as well how many longs have actually been liquidated. And if you even refer to the liquidation open interest, we've actually experienced the biggest day since December 2024. But that's really quite remarkable. Here we can see this spike that we saw back in December 2024, and now again at the current point in time. So it's really quite remarkable what's happening right now, even though we have to keep this in mind, even though Bitcoin still looks very solid. We still have the VMB, the Vincent Momentum Band below us. And that's exactly why I created this indicator for myself, simply so you have a very good reference point for where the next support will come in. And we saw exactly this behavior in June 2025 as well. If we take a look at it here, this spike happened in June. So we've already seen exactly this scenario before. We can see all of this extremely well here in the chart again. I remember this very, very well. Fear was extremely high when we got this spike. A number of longs were liquidated again, and that's exactly what I posted about here. The cleanup was successful. We're now building again on a very healthy foundation, and that's of course perfect. So this is really a dream scenario that we're seeing here right now, with everyone being nicely liquidated. And now there's definitely a much better foundation because all the over-leveraged long positions have been flushed out, and now thanks to spot demand, that is natural demand, the price can rise again. This is always the same pattern. So please also remember the first sentence from today's video. The higher the prices with negative sentiment, the more the spring is compressed, and that's exactly what we're seeing right now. The spring is being compressed both for Bitcoin and for Ethereum. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. Here too, it looks incredibly good. We still have the VMB below us, so the upward trend also looks very good here, but we'll definitely talk more about that later. That's it for now regarding Bitcoin. I know if you've watched the other YouTube videos from my side, I've said that 112,000 US dollars absolutely have to hold for Bitcoin. Currently, we're at 110,000 US dollars, but we also have to keep in mind that we still have 3 to 4 days left in this week. So I can well imagine that a liquidation spike basically happened here and that we will buy back up by the end of the week so that the weekly closing price can be above 112,000 US dollars, and then everything is still in the green here. So I'm staying relatively relaxed. Even if the candle were to close as it is right now, I can still imagine that the following week will close green again, so that this was just a pure fake out. So I'm still relatively relaxed at the moment. Everything is still in the green at the moment. We can also see here, based on the general macroeconomic environment, let's take a look at what's currently happening with the US dollar index. And there we actually see a similar pattern as in 2017, 2015, and also during the bull run in 2021. And we're seeing exactly the same pattern again now. A weak US dollar is extremely good for risk-on assets. We can see that we had a clear risk-off phase here because the US dollar index was extremely strong. And in such a situation, all the investors pull their assets out of risk-on assets. Both in traditional markets, like we saw with the Nasdaq, it was clearly a risk-off phase. But now in this case, we can clearly see that the US dollar is weakening. And what happens when we have a weak US dollar? All the investors then move back into risk-on assets. This can be seen very clearly in the price behavior of Bitcoin as well. Here we can see, so to speak, the bull run in 2017, 2015, the bull run in 2021, and now again here, the bull run in 2025. We definitely still have quite a bit of room to the downside here. So we're still far from the levels of 2015 or even 2021. I can well imagine that this will be further fueled by Trump and the Fed, bringing in another bout of significant weakness. Yes, of course, this also fits very well with the current probabilities. As I said, I explained in detail in the last video what my current plan is, but everything still looks very clean here at the moment. On the topic of global liquidity, there are already the first voices saying, "Hey Vincent, there's currently a decoupling happening. Do we need to be cautious now?" Or something along those lines. At this point, it should be made absolutely clear, and I've always said this, I still support this thesis, the topic of M2 money supply, because in my view, fresh liquidity is the fuel for rising prices. Nevertheless, we have to keep in mind, of course, it's not a guarantee, and we shouldn't look at the whole thing too rigidly. In the past, we've also seen a time lag of plus or minus 2 weeks. So it's quite possible that we're currently a bit behind here, and that this will be made up for in the coming days. So we shouldn't be too strict about it. It's more like what I said in the videos. It's a tailwind that's coming in. It definitely benefits us if we see an expansion of global liquidity. It's not a guarantee, but it's still a very good indicator because up to now, it has been extremely precise. And that's why you can view global liquidity as an overarching framework that more or less sets the general direction. But we absolutely must not look at this on a daily basis. Okay, it starts tomorrow, it starts the day after tomorrow. So you definitely shouldn't take it that literally, but still, I continue to stick to my strategy. I still assume that we can expect new all-time highs in the coming weeks. Whether it will perfectly coincide with September 24th at this point, of course, remains to be seen. Yes, I personally don't expect that either. That would really be, let's say, luck if it happened to fall exactly on that day. But still, yes, I remain optimistic, and I also believe that we will get some tailwind here. Now, to wrap things up, let's talk about Ethereum one more time. As I mentioned earlier, things are looking extremely good here. We have a beautiful upward trend structure, with higher interim lows and higher interim highs. At the moment, however, the momentum is starting to fade a bit. Yes, so the individual interim highs and lows aren't as strong now as we saw back then, But still, we have to keep in mind that we've broken through extremely strong resistance to the upside. You can see here, if I turn off the indicator for a moment, we have this high point, high point, high point. This means that there is currently extremely strong support below us at the 4,000 US dollar level. So for this support below us to break, that is, for it not to hold, is extremely unrealistic. So I'm absolutely convinced that this support will also hold for Ethereum. This means we now have a clear scenario, extremely strong support below us. But in addition to that, there is also incredibly strong resistance above us. Here we see the all-time high from 2021, and although it was briefly surpassed, so to speak, I made it very clear at that point that I want to see a weekly closing price above, let's say, 5,000 US dollars for Ethereum. Only then can we really flip the switch and become truly bullish. Now, at the current point in time, it was, in quotation marks, just a small fake out, and that's why the current scenario for Ethereum is that we once again have this spring mechanism being compressed before the next impulse takes place. And that's something we've seen time and again with Ethereum. So with Ethereum, it's so typical. We've seen this for a very long time. The spring was compressed with a nice fake out. Everyone got liquidated, and then it moved upwards here as well. Exactly the same behavior in this scenario too. Here again, we saw the spring being compressed, a nice fake out to the downside. Everyone got liquidated. People started to panic a bit, and then it moved up into the next impulse. And it's exactly the same here at the current moment. So everything is going according to plan here as well. As I said, under no circumstances should you let yourself get shaken out at this point. It's better to prepare yourself properly. In my opinion, we definitely have some great weeks ahead of us here. Personally, I'm definitely sticking to my plan, and that was, let's say, also the point of today's YouTube video, to give you a little mental boost so that you stay on track here and don't give up somehow. It would of course be a shame if viewers on my channel were to panic or become fearful or something like that, even though there's really no real reason for it. So that's exactly what I wanted to achieve with today's video, to make sure you're informed. Otherwise, if you're wondering, hey Vincent, where can I actually get all these indicators? I've definitely explained everything in the video description, showing how each of you can get this indicator completely free of charge. It's definitely extremely helpful, both for Ethereum and for Bitcoin. It's always very helpful to see, okay, hey, where is the next support coming in? Especially on a weekly basis, it works extremely well. It's also a good indicator of whether a bull market is still intact or not. So now you definitely know about that as well. Otherwise, if you're wondering where I currently buy and sell, basically as a fiat on and off ramp, I'm currently using Bitpanda. There's also a cool promotion going on there right now. I've also linked it in the video description. Otherwise, that's it for today's video. Of course, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. Thank you very much for your attention. Feel free to leave a nice comment as well. I definitely check out every single one of your comments. I'd also be interested to hear what your current assessment is. We'll see each other again in the next YouTube video.